Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, I stand before you today to tell you about the greatest love story ever told. It is a story not written in novels or captured in movies, but inscribed on the very fabric of eternity. This love story is not about fleeting emotions, not about passion that fades with time. It is the story of a love so deep, so powerful, so unshakable, that it changed the course of history. It is the love of God for mankind. The Bible tells us that God is love, 1 John 4:8. Not just that he possesses love, but that he is love itself. From the beginning of time, he created us not out of necessity, but out of love. He breathed life into us, walked with us, and desired a relationship with us. But humanity turned away, choosing selfishness over surrender, pride over peace. And yet God's love did not waver. He could have abandoned us to our sin. He could have left us to suffer the consequences of our own rebellion. But instead he did something unthinkable, something unimaginable. He sent his Son, Jesus Christ, to take our place. The greatest love is not merely spoken, it is shown. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. John 3:16. That, my friends, is the ultimate sacrifice. The cross was not just a place of suffering, it was a place of love. There Jesus stretched out his arms and said, "This is how much I love you." You see, the world talks about love as something you earn, something you deserve, something you trade, but God's love is different. It is unconditional. It does not depend on your past, your mistakes, or your failures. It is a love that pursues you even when you run, that calls you home even when you feel lost. It is a love that forgives, redeems, and restores. But here's the most important truth. Love requires a response. God has already written his love story. The question is, will you accept it? Will you open your heart to the love that changes everything? This love is not just for the saint, but for the sinner. Not just for the strong, but for the weak. Not just for the righteous, but for the broken. It is for you right where you are. The greatest love story ever told is not just about the past. It is about the present and the future. It is about a God who loves you more than you can imagine and is calling you to himself today. So I ask you, will you say yes to the greatest love story ever told? Will you receive the love of God? Because when you do, you will never be the same again. May God bless you all. Love is one of the most profound and powerful forces in the world, but to truly understand it, we must go back to its very source. Love did not originate from human emotion or cultural traditions. It was authored by God himself. The Bible tells us in 1 John 4:8, God is love. This means that love is not just something God does, it is who he is. Every form of genuine love we experience, whether in family, friendships, or marriage, finds its origin in the character of God. From the very beginning of creation, we see love woven into the fabric of humanity. God did not create us out of obligation or necessity. He was not lonely, nor did he need anything outside of himself. He created us purely out of love. In Genesis, we read that he formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into him the breath of life. This personal and intimate act demonstrates that we were not merely spoken into existence like the stars or the oceans. We were crafted by the hands of a loving creator who desired to have a relationship with us. This love is not passive. It is active, seeking, and intentional. When Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, they turned away from God's love and chose their own way. They disobeyed, bringing sin and separation between humanity and God. But God did not abandon them. Instead, he pursued them. Even in their failure, he sought them out, asking, "Where are you?" Genesis 3:9. This was not because he did not know where they were, but because he wanted them to realize their need for him. Throughout history, we see this relentless love in action. God chose a people, Israel, not because they were great or powerful, but because of his love and promise. He guided them, provided for them, and remained faithful even when they were unfaithful. The Old Testament is filled with examples of God calling his people back to him, warning them through prophets and making covenants to restore their relationship. His love is patient even when humanity is rebellious. The greatest demonstration of this love came through Jesus Christ. John 1:14 says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us." God did not stay distant or remain unseen. He stepped into human history. Jesus walked among us, healed the sick, fed the hungry, and forgave sinners. His life was a reflection of divine love in action. But the ultimate act of love was not just in his teachings or miracles, it was in his sacrifice. Jesus himself said in John 15:13, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." That is exactly what he did. The cross is the clearest picture of God's love. Christ did not die for us because we were worthy, but because he loved us while we were still sinners, Romans 5:8. His love is not based on our performance, but on his nature. This is the love that began before time, sustains us today, and will never end.